Charlotte Ellington tapped her manicured fingernails against the steering wheel of her white BMW. Atlanta traffic crawled at a snail's pace, and she was already running late for the most important marketing meeting of the month. "I know, Mother," she said into her phone's speaker. The air conditioning blasted cool air against her face, but it did little to soothe her growing irritation. "The Henderson account is massive. Trust me, I've been preparing all week." Her mother's voice crackled through the car speakers. "I just worry about you, darling. Your father built this company from nothing, and now that he's gone—" Charlotte sighed. "I know exactly what's at stake." "And what about that lawyer I introduced you to? Thomas something?" "Tom?" Charlotte corrected. "He works in our legal department. And no, Mother, I'm not interested." "You're 28, Charlotte. Your standards are impossibly high." Charlotte rolled her eyes. Traffic finally started moving, and she inched forward. "I have to go. I'm almost at work." "Just think about what I said. You need someone refined, educated, someone from our circle." "Goodbye, Mother," Charlotte said firmly, ending the call. By the time she pulled into the Buckhead Gas and Go 20 minutes later, Charlotte was seething. Her mother's constant pressure about her love life, the traffic, the looming presentation. It was all too much. She stepped out of her car, her cream-colored heels clicking against the pavement. "Need help with that?" Charlotte turned to see Tom Garcia, her coworker, filling up his Audi at the next pump. His smug smile made her stomach turn slightly. He'd been dropping hints for months, despite her clear lack of interest. "I've been pumping my own gas since I was 16, Tom," she replied coolly. He chuckled. "You seem stressed. Big meeting today?" "Huge," she admitted, inserting her credit card into the pump. "And my mother won't stop pestering me about dating suitable men." "Ah, the infamous Vivian Ellington and her matchmaking," Tom said. "What's wrong with the guys she picks? Too boring? Too rich?" He laughed at his own joke. Charlotte felt her frustration boiling over. Without thinking, she repeated her mother's words from that morning. "She thinks I'm too picky, but honestly, my standards are reasonable. I mean, look at the options around here." She gestured vaguely toward the convenience store where a group of construction workers were buying coffee. Her voice rose slightly as she continued. "My mother says half the men in Atlanta aren't worth my time, especially—" She lowered her voice, but not enough. "Black men are too ugly for someone like me anyway." The words hung in the air. Charlotte immediately felt a wave of shame wash over her. Had she really just said that out loud? Those weren't even her thoughts. They were her mother's poisonous ideas. She heard a small noise and turned. A tall black man stood at the pump behind her, his dark eyes meeting hers directly. He wore a simple gray t-shirt with Reed's Auto printed across the chest. His expression was perfectly controlled, but the slight tightening of his jaw told her he'd heard everything. Charlotte's face burned. The man broke eye contact, deliberately turned his back, and continued pumping his gas as if she didn't exist. "Well, that was awkward," Tom whispered, seeming almost pleased by her discomfort. Charlotte wanted to apologize, to explain that she didn't actually believe what she'd said. But the man was already climbing into his pickup truck, his movements calm and measured. "I need to go," she mumbled to Tom, hurrying back to her car. The marketing meeting went brilliantly, but Charlotte barely noticed. The memory of the man's face, his controlled expression masking what must have been hurt and anger, kept floating into her mind. By late afternoon, she was sitting at her desk, staring blankly at her computer screen. "Earth to Charlotte," Tom said, leaning against her doorframe. "We're celebrating the Henderson win. Drinks at Mapletree? Everyone's going." "I don't feel well," she replied. "Headache." "Still upset about this morning?" he asked. "Don't worry about it. That guy probably didn't even understand what you were saying." Charlotte looked up sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Tom shrugged. Just saying, he looked like he works with his hands, not his brain. Probably a high school dropout. You don't know anything about him, Charlotte snapped. Whoa, calm down. I'm on your side here, Tom said, holding up his hands. I know you have high standards. Nothing wrong with that. Charlotte turned back to her computer. I need to finish something. Have fun tonight. After Tom left, Charlotte gathered her things and headed home early. Dark clouds had gathered during the day, and as she drove down the highway, the first heavy drops of rain began to hit her windshield. Within minutes, it had turned into a downpour. She took the rural back road that served as her shortcut home, winding through patches of woods and past small farms. The rain made it hard to see, and Charlotte slowed down, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. Charlotte glanced down for just a second, and when she looked up, a deer stood frozen in her headlights. She gasped, jerking the wheel hard to avoid hitting the animal. The car hydroplaned. Charlotte felt the sickening sensation of losing control as the BMW spun across the wet asphalt. She screamed as the car slid off the road and down the embankment, flipping once before crashing into a ditch with a horrifying crunch of metal. Everything went quiet except for the steady drum of rain on the crushed roof and the hiss of the damaged engine. Charlotte hung upside down, held in place by her seatbelt. A warm trickle of blood ran from her forehead down to her hairline. The airbags had deployed, filling the car with a burning smell. Help! She called weakly, her voice barely audible over the rain. Somebody help me! Pain shot through her right arm when she tried to move. The door was crushed, impossible to open from the inside. Water was beginning to seep into the car from below. Panic rose in her chest as she realized how alone she was on this back road. How long until someone drove by? Minutes passed like hours. The rain continued to fall heavily, and the water level in the car rose steadily. Charlotte tried to stay calm, but tears mixed with the blood on her face. She thought of her father, who had died just 2 years ago. Was she going to die too? Then she heard it, the sound of a vehicle slowing down. Headlights cut through the rain and darkness. Hello? Is anyone in there? A deep voice called. Yes! Help me, please! Charlotte cried out. She heard the splash of footsteps rushing down the embankment. A face appeared at her shattered window. The man from the gas station, his features now tight with concern instead of controlled hurt. Hold on, he said firmly. I'm going to get you out. Charlotte watched as he tried the crushed door, then disappeared from view. Seconds later, she heard a loud metallic groan as he forced the passenger door open from the outside. Can you unbuckle your seatbelt? He asked, crawling partway into the upside-down car. Charlotte's fingers were shaking too badly to work the buckle. It's stuck, she whispered, terror making her voice shake. I've got you, he said calmly. He reached across her body, his arm brushing against hers as he pressed the buckle release. I'm going to catch you, okay? This might hurt. The belt released, and Charlotte fell slightly before strong arms caught her. Pain shot through her injured arm, and she cried out. I'm sorry, he said, his voice gentle despite the urgency of the situation. I need to move you now. The car's not stable. With surprising care, he maneuvered her through the passenger side opening. The rain soaked them both instantly as he carried her up the slippery embankment to safety. By the time they reached level ground, Charlotte was shivering uncontrollably. The man set her down carefully by his truck and draped his jacket over her shoulders. It smelled like motor oil and something spicy, cologne or aftershave. Thank you, Charlotte managed to say through chattering teeth. I can't believe you stopped to help me after what I— Don't talk, he interrupted. Save your strength. I called 911, but ambulance response time out here is slow. My aunt's house is 5 minutes away. We should get you somewhere warm until they arrive. He helped her into his truck, carefully avoiding her injured arm. As they pulled away from the crash site, Charlotte studied his profile in the dim light of the dashboard. His hands were steady on the wheel, his expression focused. I'm Charlotte, she said softly. He glanced at her briefly. Marcus Reed. You're the one from the gas station, this morning. Marcus nodded once, but said nothing. I need to explain about— You don't need to explain anything. He cut her off, his voice even. Right now, you just need medical attention. Charlotte fell silent, shame washing over her again, now mixed with gratitude. This man she had insulted just hours ago was now her rescuer. The irony wasn't lost on her. Marcus's aunt's house was small but welcoming, with a covered porch and bright yellow door. Despite the darkness and rain, it looked like a safe harbor. As Marcus helped her from the truck, Charlotte swayed on her feet, suddenly lightheaded. Whoa, easy, Marcus said, catching her. Without hesitation, he scooped her up into his arms. You saved me, Charlotte whispered, her head resting against his shoulder as consciousness began to slip away. The last thing she remembered was the gentleness with which he carried her up the porch steps, so at odds with the strength it must have taken to force open her crushed car door. When Charlotte next opened her eyes, she was lying on a comfortable couch in a warm living room. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with antiseptic. An older black woman with kind eyes was carefully cleaning a cut on Charlotte's forehead. There you are, the woman said with a small smile. I was starting to worry. I'm Denise, Marcus's aunt. Charlotte Ellington? She replied, wincing as the antiseptic stung. How long was I out? Just about 15 minutes. Paramedics are on their way, but the storm has flooded some roads. Charlotte tried to sit up, but pain shot through her arm. She looked down to see it carefully wrapped in what appeared to be a makeshift splint. Marcus did that, Denise explained. He's good with his hands. Used to want to be a doctor before his parents passed. Charlotte felt a pang of guilt, remembering Tom's dismissive comments about Marcus being uneducated. How wrong they both had been. Where is he? Charlotte asked. As if on cue, Marcus entered the room carrying a mug of steaming coffee. His eyes met Charlotte's, and for a moment, neither spoke. How's the arm? He finally asked, setting the mug down on the coffee table. It hurts, Charlotte admitted, but I think it's just sprained, not broken. Marcus nodded. The cut on your head looks worse than it is. Head wounds always bleed a lot. An awkward silence fell. Charlotte couldn't bear it any longer. About what I said this morning? It's fine, Marcus interrupted, his face closing off. I've heard worse. The indifference in his voice hurt more than anger would have. Charlotte realized he truly believed she wasn't worth getting upset over. Just another rich white woman with predictable prejudices. It's not fine, Charlotte insisted. What I said was inexcusable, and The sound of sirens cut her off. Marcus moved to the window. Ambulance is here, he said, relief evident in his voice. They'll take better care of you than I can. After the paramedics examined her, they confirmed Marcus's assessment. A sprained wrist, minor cuts, and bruising, but no serious injuries. They recommended she go to the hospital for a more thorough examination, but Charlotte refused. I just want to go home, she said firmly. The rain had finally stopped, and stars were beginning to peek through breaks in the clouds. The paramedics reluctantly agreed to release her after she signed some paperwork. How will you get home? Denise asked worriedly. Your car is totaled. Before Charlotte could answer, Marcus spoke up. I'll drive her. Denise raised her eyebrows, but said nothing. You don't have to, Charlotte said. It's late, you're injured, and there's no Uber out here, Marcus replied practically. I'll drive you. As Charlotte prepared to leave, Denise insisted she stay the night instead. It's too late to be driving all the way back to the city with those injuries. You take my guest room, and we'll sort everything out in the morning. Too exhausted to argue, Charlotte agreed. As Denise showed her to the guest room, Charlotte caught sight of Marcus through the window. He stood in the driveway, examining what remained of Charlotte's tire in the beam of a flashlight. Even after what she'd said, after the way she'd hurt him, he was still trying to help her. Charlotte watched him work, guilt knotting in her chest. She had never been so wrong about someone in her entire life. Morning sunlight streamed through lace curtains, painting patterns across Charlotte's face. For a moment, she didn't recognize where she was. Then the pain in her arm brought everything rushing back. The crash, the rescue, and most of all, Marcus. She sat up slowly, wincing at her sore muscles. Her designer clothes from yesterday were neatly folded on a nearby chair, replaced now by a soft t-shirt and sweatpants that must belong to Denise. Someone had even removed her makeup with gentle care. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. Come in, she called. Denise entered carrying a tray with toast, eggs, and orange juice. Good morning, honey. How are you feeling? Like I flipped my car, Charlotte replied with a weak smile. But better than I should, thanks to Marcus. Denise set the tray on the nightstand. He called your insurance company this morning. They'll send someone to tow your car to his shop later today. His shop? Charlotte asked, confused. Reed's Auto. Marcus owns it. Best mechanic in 3 counties, Denise said with clear pride. He said he'd take a look at your car, but honestly, from what he told me about the damage, it might be totaled. Charlotte nodded, recalling the Reed's Auto logo on Marcus's shirt yesterday at the gas station. Of course, he was a business owner, not just some mechanic. Another assumption she'd gotten wrong. Is he here? Charlotte asked hesitantly. He's outside getting your ride home ready, Denise replied. Eat something first. Doctor's orders. She winked, clearly implying her own authority. Charlotte couldn't help but smile. There was something comforting about Denise's no-nonsense kindness. She picked up a piece of toast and took a small bite. You know, Denise said, sitting on the edge of the bed, my nephew doesn't talk much, but he's got the biggest heart of anyone I know. Been taking care of me since my arthritis got bad, and he's got his own life to worry about. Charlotte swallowed hard. He seems like a good man. The best, Denise agreed. But life hasn't always been kind to him. People make assumptions when they see a big black man who works with his hands. The pointed comment wasn't lost on Charlotte. Shame colored her cheeks. I think I made some of those assumptions myself, she admitted quietly. Denise patted her hand. Recognizing that is a good first step. After breakfast, Charlotte borrowed Denise's phone to call her mother. She kept the conversation brief, explaining only that she'd had a minor accident and was fine. She purposely left out any mention of Marcus or where she'd spent the night. Her mother would only complicate things with her judgments. By mid-morning, Charlotte was dressed in her wrinkled clothes from yesterday, waiting in the living room. Through the window, she watched Marcus loading something into his truck. His movements were efficient and strong, his face serious in concentration. When he entered the house, he paused in the doorway, seeming surprised to find Charlotte ready to go. How's the arm? He asked, his tone professional. Better, she replied, lifting her bandaged wrist slightly. Thank you again for everything. Most people would have just called 911 and kept driving. Marcus shook his head. I'm not most people. I'm learning that, Charlotte said softly. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them until Denise bustled in. All set to go? Marcus, did you tell her about the tire? He nodded. I salvaged one of your tires. It's in my truck. I'll get it to the insurance adjuster. Might help with your claim. Such thoughtfulness from someone she'd hurt made Charlotte's throat tight. Thank you. Denise gave Charlotte a warm hug. You come back and visit when you're feeling better, you hear? Any friend of Marcus's is welcome here. Charlotte blinked back unexpected tears. I'd like that. The drive back to the city started in silence. Charlotte stared out the window, watching farmland gradually give way to suburbs. The tension between them was thick enough to touch. Your aunt is wonderful, Charlotte finally said. Marcus's expression softened slightly. She raised me after my parents died. Car accident when I was 15. I'm so sorry, Charlotte replied, the irony of his parents' fate and her rescue not lost on her. My father died 2 years ago. Heart attack. Marcus nodded in understanding. It changes you. Yes, Charlotte agreed, though not always for the better. I think I've been harder since he died, more like my mother. Marcus glanced at her briefly. And that's not who you want to be? No, Charlotte answered honestly. It's not. As they neared the city, the roads became more congested. At a stoplight, Marcus turned to her. Look, about yesterday at the gas station? I'm sorry, Charlotte blurted out. What I said was inexcusable, and I need you to know I don't actually believe that. I was repeating something my mother said, but that's no excuse. I should never have said it. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Why are you telling me this? Because I helped you? You don't owe me anything, Charlotte. This isn't about owing you, she insisted. It's about being honest. What I said was wrong, period. Whether you had helped me or not. The light turned green, and Marcus drove on, his face unreadable. Finally, he spoke. Apology accepted. Charlotte felt a small weight lift from her shoulders, though she knew she didn't deserve forgiveness so easily. When they arrived at her luxury condo building, Marcus pulled into the circular driveway. 2 elderly women were walking a small dog nearby. They stared openly as Marcus helped Charlotte out of his work truck. Your neighborhood welcome committee? Marcus asked dryly, noticing their stares. Charlotte felt a flash of irritation, not at Marcus, but at the women's obvious judgment. For the first time, she found herself on the receiving end of the same kind of prejudice she'd carelessly voiced yesterday. Ignore them, she said. Would you like to come up for coffee? It's the least I can do. Marcus shook his head. I need to get back to the shop. Customers waiting. Of course, Charlotte said, trying to hide her disappointment. Thank you again for everything. Marcus pulled a business card from his wallet. Here's my shop info. I'll call you when the insurance adjuster comes by. We can talk about repairs then, if your car's not totaled. Charlotte took the card, their fingers brushing briefly. I'll come by tomorrow to see it, if that's okay. Sure, Marcus replied, his tone neutral. Take care of that wrist. As he drove away, Charlotte couldn't help feeling she'd been dismissed. But what did she expect? That saving her life would magically erase what she'd said? That wasn't how real life worked. Inside her sleek, modern apartment, Charlotte felt oddly out of place. The pristine white furniture and minimalist decor that had always represented success now felt cold and impersonal compared to Denise's warm, lived-in home. She showered carefully, mindful of her injuries, then settled on her couch with her laptop. Without really thinking about it, she typed Reed's Auto into the search bar. To her surprise, Marcus's business had an impressive website and dozens of 5-star reviews. Marcus didn't just fix my car, he treated me like family, one review read. Another, Most honest mechanic in Atlanta. Told me what I didn't need to fix when others would have charged me. Charlotte scrolled through page after page of glowing testimonials. There were photos, too. Marcus with customers, Marcus teaching a car, maintenance workshop for single mothers, Marcus sponsoring a little league team. This was the man she had insulted with a careless comment. This was the man who had saved her life without hesitation. Charlotte closed her laptop, determination settling over her. Tomorrow, she would go to his shop and apologize properly. Not just with words, but by showing him she was truly sorry and truly listening. The next morning, Charlotte dressed simply in jeans and a blouse, her arm still bandaged but feeling better. She called a car service and headed to Reed's Auto in the industrial part of town. The garage was busier than she'd expected. 4 service bays were full, with mechanics working efficiently on various vehicles. Classic rock played from a radio in the corner, and the smell of oil and metal hung in the air. Charlotte stepped into the reception area, immediately drawing curious looks from the workers. A young woman behind the counter smiled at her. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for Marcus Reed," Charlotte replied. "I'm Charlotte Ellington. He helped me after my accident yesterday." The woman's expression changed to recognition. "Oh, you're the BMW lady. I'll get him." As she waited, Charlotte felt increasingly out of place in her designer jeans and silk blouse. She'd thought she was dressing casually, but even these simple clothes marked her as different here. The garage suddenly went quiet. Charlotte turned to see Marcus standing in the doorway, wiping his hands on a rag. His expression was guarded. "Your car's in the back," he said by way of greeting. "Insurance adjuster is coming this afternoon." "I didn't come about the car," Charlotte replied. "I came to see you." Marcus looked surprised, but quickly recovered. "I'm working." "I know. I can wait." Charlotte stood her ground. "Or I can come back later. But I am coming back." Something shifted in Marcus's expression. Surprise? Maybe even respect. He nodded slowly. "Let me show you your car, at least," he said. He led her through the garage to the back lot. Charlotte's once pristine BMW sat sadly under an awning, its white paint scratched and dented. The driver's side completely crushed. Seeing it in daylight made her realize just how lucky she was to be alive. "I don't think they'll repair it," Marcus said, walking around the vehicle. "Frame damage is too severe, but your insurance should cover a replacement." Charlotte barely heard him. She was picturing herself trapped inside as water seeped in, imagining what would have happened if Marcus hadn't come along. "Hey," Marcus's voice softened. "You okay?" Charlotte blinked back unexpected tears. "I could have died in there." "But you didn't," Marcus said firmly. "You're here. Focus on that." His simple, direct comfort steadied her. Charlotte took a deep breath and nodded. "Aunt Denise is bringing lunch in about an hour," Marcus said after a moment. "You're welcome to join us, if you want to wait." The invitation surprised her. "I'd like that, thank you." "You can wait in my office," he offered, gesturing to a small room off the main garage. Marcus's office was small, but organized. Certificates hung on the walls, business management courses, automotive certifications, and to Charlotte's surprise, 2 years of pre-med coursework from Georgia State University. Just as Denise had mentioned, a photo on his desk caught her attention. A smiling couple with a teenage boy, who was clearly a younger Marcus, his parents. Charlotte felt a pang of sadness, thinking of her own father's photo on her desk at work. The hour passed quickly as Charlotte answered emails on her phone. She'd called in sick to work, unable to face Tom and his inevitable questions after yesterday's events. When Denise arrived, her face lit up at the sight of Charlotte. "Well, look who came to visit. How's that arm today, honey?" "Much better." Charlotte smiled. Thank you again for taking care of me yesterday. Nonsense. That's what people do, Denise replied, setting down a large insulated bag. I hope you like chicken salad sandwiches. The three of them gathered in a small break room. Several mechanics joined them, each nodding politely to Charlotte. She noticed they all treated Denise with warm affection, like a favorite aunt. So, Charlotte, Denise said as they ate, what do you do when you're not getting rescued from car wrecks? I'm the marketing director at Ellington Partners, Charlotte replied. It was my father's company. We handle branding and advertising for corporate clients. Impressive, Denise said with a nod. Smart and pretty. Charlotte felt herself blush. One of the mechanics, an older man with gray hair, chuckled. Don't mind Denise, he said. She's been trying to find Marcus a nice girl for years. Rick, Marcus warned, but there was no real heat in his voice. Charlotte noticed Marcus was more relaxed among his workers than Denise. The hard shell he presented to her softened here, showing glimpses of a different man. One who smiled more easily and even laughed at Rick's teasing. After lunch, the mechanics returned to work. Denise left with hugs for everyone, including Charlotte, and then it was just the two of them again, standing awkwardly in the break room. Thank you for including me, Charlotte said. Marcus nodded. Denise would have been disappointed if I hadn't. Is that the only reason? Charlotte asked boldly. Marcus studied her, his dark eyes unreadable. What do you want from me, Charlotte? The directness of his question caught her off guard. I don't know exactly. A chance to apologize properly for starters. You already did. Words are easy, Charlotte replied. I want to show you I mean it. Marcus leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. How do you plan to do that? Charlotte hadn't expected the question. I don't know, she admitted, but I'd like to try, if you'll let me. Just then, Rick poked his head into the break room. Boss, that transmission for the Honda just arrived. Need your eyes on it. Marcus nodded. Be right there. He turned back to Charlotte. I need to get back to work. Of course, she said, trying not to show her disappointment. Can I come back? Maybe when you're not so busy? Marcus hesitated, then said, I'm here late tonight, doing inventory. If you want to stop by around 7, I'll be here. Hope fluttered in Charlotte's chest. I'll be here. That evening, Charlotte returned to Reed's Auto just as the last employees were leaving. The large garage doors were closed, but a light shone from the office where she'd waited earlier. She knocked on the side entrance, and after a moment, Marcus opened the door. He'd changed from his work uniform into jeans and a clean gray t-shirt that hugged his broad shoulders. His expression was guarded, but not unwelcoming. You came back, he said, stepping aside to let her in. I said I would, Charlotte replied simply. Inside, the garage was oddly peaceful without the daytime noise and activity. A radio played softly in the background. Not rock this time, but blues. The soulful guitar and deep vocals created an intimate atmosphere. I like this, Charlotte said, nodding toward the radio. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You like blues? My father did, she explained. He had an old record collection. This sounds like Muddy Waters? Marcus looked genuinely surprised. Good ear, it is. A small smile broke his reserve, and Charlotte felt a tiny victory. For once, she'd defied his expectations of her, just as he had defied hers. Want something to drink? Marcus offered. I've got water, soda, or coffee that's probably been sitting too long. Water is fine, Charlotte said. He retrieved 2 bottles from a small refrigerator, then led her to his office. The space seemed even smaller with both of them in it. Charlotte was acutely aware of his presence. His height, the clean scent of his soap, the careful way he moved around her. Insurance adjuster came by. Marcus said, sitting behind his desk. Like I thought, they're declaring it totaled. Check should come in a few days. Thank you for handling all of that, Charlotte said. You've gone above and beyond? Marcus shrugged. Just doing my job. No? Charlotte shook her head. Your job was maybe calling a tow truck yesterday, not pulling me from a wrecked car, taking me to your aunt's house, or making sure my insurance claim goes smoothly. That's kindness, Marcus. He looked uncomfortable with her praise. Anyone would have done the same. We both know that's not true, Charlotte said softly. Especially not after what I said at the gas station. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. The blues music filled the silence between them. Why did you say it? He finally asked, his voice low. Do you really believe that? Charlotte met his gaze directly. No, I was repeating something my mother says. I was stressed and frustrated and just echoed her words without thinking. But that's not an excuse. It was wrong, and I'm truly sorry. Marcus nodded slowly. I believe you. Those 3 simple words meant more to Charlotte than she expected. You know, Marcus continued, I see a lot of nice cars come through here. I can tell a lot about a person by how they treat their vehicle and how they treat my staff when they bring it in. And what would my car have told you about me? Charlotte asked. A hint of a smile touched Marcus's lips. Well, before it was crushed, I would have said it was well-maintained but driven hard. Expensive but not flashy. Someone who has money but doesn't need to show off. Charlotte laughed softly. That's surprisingly accurate. I'm good at reading people, Marcus said. Usually. But not me? Charlotte asked. You surprised me, he admitted. Twice now. Once at the gas station, and again when you came back here today. The honesty in his voice made Charlotte's heart beat a little faster. I surprised myself too. They fell into an easier conversation after that. Marcus explained the inventory system he was updating, and Charlotte offered suggestions from her business experience. The formality between them gradually melted away, replaced by something that felt almost like friendship. When Charlotte noticed the time, she was shocked to see that 2 hours had passed. I should probably go. You must be tired after working all day. Marcus nodded. Let me walk you out. In the parking lot, Charlotte turned to him. Thank you for tonight, for giving me a chance to apologize properly. Thank you for coming back, Marcus replied. That took courage. Something in his tone made Charlotte look up at him. His eyes were softer now, the wariness replaced by something she couldn't quite name. In that moment, standing in the glow of the security lights, Charlotte realized with a start that she found Marcus Reed not just compelling as a person, but attractive as a man. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. Would you... Charlotte hesitated, then pushed forward. Would you like to have coffee sometime, when you're not working? Marcus studied her face, as if searching for something. Are you asking me out, Charlotte Ellington? I'm asking for a chance to know you better, she replied honestly. After what felt like the longest pause of her life, Marcus nodded. Okay, coffee. Charlotte couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. Great. When? Sunday morning. There's a place called Rosie's near here that's good. Sunday morning at Rosie's sounds perfect, Charlotte said, suddenly feeling lighter than she had in months. As she climbed into her rideshare, Charlotte glanced back at Marcus. He stood watching her leave, his expression thoughtful. Something was beginning between them. Something neither had expected. Whether it was friendship or something more remained to be seen. But for the first time since her father died, Charlotte felt hopeful about connecting with another person. The accident that had nearly taken her life, had also, somehow, pushed her toward truly living again. Sunday morning dawned bright and clear. Charlotte spent more time than usual choosing her outfit, finally settling on a simple sundress and sandals, casual but feminine. As she applied minimal makeup, she wondered why she felt so nervous. This was just coffee with Marcus, a chance to know him better. Nothing more. But the flutter in her stomach suggested otherwise. Rosie's turned out to be a small, cozy diner with checkered tablecloths and the smell of fresh baked goods filling the air. Charlotte arrived a few minutes early and chose a table by the window. She was checking her phone when a shadow fell across her table. "Morning." Charlotte looked up to find Marcus standing there, looking different than she'd seen him before. Instead of work clothes or casual evening wear, he wore neat dark jeans and a button-down shirt in deep blue. His typically serious expression held the hint of a smile. "Good morning," she replied, suddenly feeling shy. "You look nice." "So do you," he said, sitting across from her. "How's the arm?" Charlotte rotated her wrist carefully. "Much better. The bruises are turning interesting colors, but the pain is almost gone." A waitress approached with a pot of coffee. "Marcus Reed! Haven't seen you in here for weeks." "Been busy at the shop, Gloria," he replied with easy familiarity. "And who's your friend?" Gloria asked, eyeing Charlotte with open curiosity. "This is Charlotte," Marcus said simply. Gloria raised an eyebrow, but said nothing as she filled their cups. "The usual for you, Marcus?" He nodded. "Thanks." "And for you, honey?" Gloria asked Charlotte. "Just toast and fruit, please," Charlotte replied. After Gloria left, Marcus stirred sugar into his coffee. "She's known me since I was a kid. Used to give me free pie when I came in after school." "You grew up around here?" Charlotte asked. Marcus nodded. "Born and raised. My dad started the auto shop in the 90s. I took it over after college." "Denise mentioned you were pre-med for a while," Charlotte said. "What changed?" A shadow crossed Marcus's face. "My parents died during my sophomore year. Dad's business was struggling without him. Had to make a choice. Keep chasing med school or save what he built." "I'm sorry," Charlotte said softly. "That must have been incredibly hard." Marcus shrugged, but she could see the old pain in his eyes. "Life happens. You adjust." "Do you ever regret it? Not becoming a doctor?" He considered her question seriously. "Sometimes, but I'm proud of what the shop has become. Dad would be too." Their food arrived, interrupting the moment. Marcus's usual turned out to be a hearty plate of eggs, bacon, and biscuits with gravy. Charlotte's simple toast looked meager by comparison. "Is that all you're eating?" Marcus asked. "I'm not usually very hungry in the morning," she explained. Marcus pushed his plate slightly toward her. "Try the biscuits at least. Best in Atlanta." Charlotte smiled at the gesture and took a small piece of his biscuit. It was indeed delicious, buttery and flaky in a way her usual avocado toast never could be. "So, tell me about your work," Marcus said. "Marketing, right?" Charlotte nodded. "I'm the marketing director at my father's company. Well, it was his. Now it's mine and my mother's. We handle advertising and branding for corporate clients." "Sounds complicated," Marcus commented. "It can be," Charlotte admitted. "But I enjoy the creative aspects, helping companies tell their stories in authentic ways." Marcus looked thoughtful. "Never thought about it like that. Storytelling." "That's exactly what it is," Charlotte said, warming to the subject. "Every business has a story. The trick is finding the heart of it." "What's the heart of Reed's Auto?" Marcus asked with a small smile. Charlotte considered the question seriously. "From what I've seen, trust. You build relationships, not just fix cars. That's why your customers are so loyal. Marcus looked impressed. That's exactly right. Their conversation flowed easily after that. Charlotte found herself laughing at Marcus's dry humor, and he seemed genuinely interested in her work stories. They were so engaged that neither noticed Gloria refilling their coffee cups with a knowing smile. "You want to take a drive?" Marcus asked when they finally finished breakfast. "I've got something to show you." Curious, Charlotte agreed. Outside, she was surprised to see not his work truck, but a beautifully restored vintage Ford Mustang in gleaming black. "This is yours?" she asked, running her hand appreciatively along the pristine finish. "My weekend car," Marcus explained with unmistakable pride. "Restored it myself. Took 3 years." "It's beautiful," Charlotte said sincerely. Marcus opened the passenger door for her. "Let's see how she handles." The car purred to life, its engine a deep, satisfying rumble. Marcus drove them out of the city, handling the powerful vehicle with confidence. Windows down, warm spring air whipping through her hair, Charlotte felt strangely free. They drove for nearly an hour, the urban landscape giving way to rolling countryside. Finally, Marcus turned onto a small road leading to a public park overlooking a lake. "I come here to think sometimes," he explained as they walked along a tree-lined path. "It's peaceful." The lake sparkled in the midday sun. A few families picnicked nearby, and children's laughter carried on the breeze. Charlotte and Marcus found a bench with a view of the water. "Thank you for bringing me here," Charlotte said. "It's lovely." Marcus nodded. "After my parents died, I came here a lot. Something about water puts things in perspective." Charlotte thought of her father. "I understand. After Dad died, I'd sit in his study for hours. It smelled like his cologne and old books." "You were close to him?" Marcus asked gently. "Very," Charlotte admitted. "He was different from my mother. Warm, accepting." She paused, gathering courage for what she needed to say next. "That comment at the gas station? That was pure Vivian Ellington speaking. My father would have been ashamed of me." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "We all say things we don't mean sometimes." "But not things like that," Charlotte insisted. "I'm trying to understand why I did. I think maybe after Dad died, I started trying too hard to please my mother, to be what she wanted." "And what does she want?" Marcus asked. Charlotte laughed without humor. "The perfect daughter, perfect job, perfect house, perfect husband from the right family with the right connections." "And what do you want?" The question caught her off guard. No one had asked her that in a long time. "I want to be myself," she said slowly. "Whoever that is." Marcus smiled, a real, warm smile that transformed his serious face. "I'd like to meet her." Something shifted between them in that moment. Charlotte felt it, a connection deeper than politeness or guilt or gratitude. She found herself telling him things she rarely shared. Her fear that she couldn't run the company as well as her father had, her complicated relationship with her mother, her loneliness since her father's death. Marcus listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions. In turn, he shared more about his parents, his dreams of expanding the auto shop to include a training program for disadvantaged youth, and his close relationship with Denise. Hours passed like minutes. When Charlotte's phone chimed with a message, she was startled to see it was already mid-afternoon. "I should probably get you back," Marcus said, noticing the time. "You must have things to do." Charlotte didn't want their time together to end, but she nodded. "Unfortunately, yes. Sunday night dinner with my mother, a tradition I can't escape." As they walked back to the car, Charlotte's phone rang. The screen showed Tom Work. She declined the call. "Not important?" Marcus asked. Just a coworker, Charlotte explained. The one who was with me at the gas station that day. Marcus's expression darkened slightly. The one who laughed? Charlotte nodded, embarrassed. Tom can be difficult. He's been trying to date me for months, despite my lack of interest. I see, Marcus said, his tone neutral. The drive back was comfortable, both of them relaxed in each other's company now. When Marcus pulled up outside Charlotte's building, he turned to her. I had a good time today, he said. So did I, Charlotte replied sincerely. Much better than I expected. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Low expectations? No, Charlotte felt her cheeks warm. I didn't expect to feel so comfortable with you, to talk so easily. Same here, Marcus admitted. A moment of silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibilities. Charlotte found herself leaning slightly toward him, drawn by something she couldn't name. Marcus cleared his throat and sat back. Your insurance called yesterday. Check should be ready tomorrow. The sudden return to practicality broke the spell. Charlotte nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. Will you come to the shop to pick it up? Marcus asked. Or should I have them mail it? I'll come by, Charlotte said quickly. Maybe around lunchtime? Marcus nodded. I'll be there. As Charlotte stepped out of the car, she turned back to him. Thank you for today, Marcus. It meant a lot to me. You too, he replied softly. Their eyes held for a moment before he drove away. Charlotte watched the sleek black Mustang until it disappeared around a corner, a smile playing on her lips. Today had changed things between them. What had begun as guilt and gratitude was becoming something more, something unexpected and exciting. The spell was broken by another call from Tom. With a sigh, Charlotte answered. What is it, Tom? Finally! Where have you been? I've been trying to reach you all weekend. His voice held an edge of annoyance that grated on Charlotte's nerves. I was busy, she replied simply. What's so urgent? The Henderson meeting got moved up to tomorrow morning, and your mother was looking for you earlier. She called the office. Charlotte groaned inwardly. Thanks for letting me know. I'll be prepared for the meeting. So, where were you? Tom pressed. Hot date? Before her time with Marcus, Charlotte would have laughed off the question or given a vague answer. Now, she felt a surge of irritation at Tom's entitlement. That's not really your business, is it? She replied coolly. Tom's surprise was evident in his silence. Charlotte, I was just asking as a friend. Were you? She challenged, because it felt like prying. Whoa, what's gotten into you? Tom asked. You've been different since the accident. Maybe I have, Charlotte conceded. I need to go, Tom. I'll see you tomorrow. She ended the call, feeling strangely empowered. The Charlotte from a week ago would have placated Tom, maintained the status quo. This Charlotte, the one who'd spent the day with Marcus, didn't feel the need to please everyone anymore. Sunday dinner with her mother was exactly as Charlotte had expected, elegant, formal, and emotionally draining. They ate in Vivian's opulent dining room with china that had belonged to Charlotte's grandmother and crystal glasses that caught the light from the chandelier overhead. You look tired, darling, Vivian commented, studying Charlotte's face with critical eyes. And your hair needs attention. I've been recovering from the accident, Mother, Charlotte reminded her. A little tired is to be expected. Vivian sipped her wine. I still don't understand why you refused to stay in the hospital, or why you didn't call me immediately. I wasn't seriously injured, Charlotte explained for what felt like the 100th time, and I didn't want to worry you. Well, at least the insurance is handling everything, Vivian said. Your father always insisted on comprehensive coverage. Charlotte nodded, picking at her salmon. Actually, The owner of an auto shop has been helping me with the insurance claim. He's been very kind. An auto shop? Vivian's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. Surely our lawyer should be handling that. It's not that complicated, Mother, and Marcus, Mr. Reed, has been extremely helpful. Marcus Reed? Vivian repeated the name with obvious distaste. Is he the one who found you after the accident? Charlotte set down her fork. Yes, he saved my life, actually. Pulled me out of the car before it filled with water. Well, that was fortunate. Vivian conceded. We should send him a thank you gift. A nice watch, perhaps. Or a gift certificate to a good restaurant. He's not a charity case, Mother, Charlotte said, her voice sharper than she intended. He owns a successful business. He helped me because he's a good person, not because he wanted a reward. Vivian stared at her daughter in surprise. I never suggested otherwise. I simply think it's appropriate to acknowledge his assistance. Charlotte took a deep breath. You're right. I'm sorry. It's just, he's been very kind, and I don't want to insult him. Kind or not, he's still a mechanic, Charlotte, Vivian said dismissively. Let's not confuse gratitude with something inappropriate. The implication was clear. Charlotte felt her cheeks burn with anger, but she held her tongue. There was no point arguing with her mother about this, not yet, anyway. The next morning at work, Charlotte immersed herself in preparation for the Henderson meeting. She was reviewing her presentation when Tom appeared in her doorway. Ready for the big show? He asked with his typical swagger. Almost, Charlotte replied without looking up. Tom entered without invitation and closed the door behind him. Listen, about yesterday, I think we got off on the wrong foot. Let me make it up to you. Dinner tonight? Charlotte finally looked up, finding Tom's confident smile more irritating than charming. I'm busy tonight. Come on, Charlotte, he persisted. One dinner. We've been dancing around this for months. No, Tom, you've been dancing. I've been standing still, Charlotte said firmly. I'm not interested in dating you. I thought I'd made that clear. Tom's smile faltered. Is this because of the accident, or? His eyes narrowed. Wait, does this have something to do with that mechanic? The black guy from the gas station? Charlotte felt a flare of protective anger. His name is Marcus Reed, and yes, he's the one who saved my life. So what? You feel obligated to him now? Tom asked incredulously. Charlotte, that's not a basis for whatever this is. You don't know anything about it, Charlotte replied coldly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a presentation to finish. Tom didn't move. Your mother wouldn't approve, you know, dating the help. Something snapped inside Charlotte. She stood up, facing Tom, directly. First, he's not the help. He's a business owner. Second, who I spend time with is none of your business or my mother's. And third, get out of my office. Now. Tom looked shocked at her outburst. Without another word, he turned and left, closing the door harder than necessary behind him. Charlotte sat back down, her heart pounding. She'd never spoken to Tom that way before. It felt terrifying and liberating. The Henderson meeting went brilliantly, despite the earlier confrontation. Charlotte's presentation was met with enthusiastic approval, securing an even larger contract than they'd hoped for. As the client representatives filed out, Charlotte's mother approached, her smile professionally warm. Excellent work, darling, Vivian said. Your father would be proud. Thank you, Mother, Charlotte replied, gathering her materials. If you'll excuse me, I need to step out for lunch. I have an errand to run. Vivian's smile faded slightly. An errand? During work hours? It's about my car insurance, Charlotte explained. I need to pick up the settlement check. I see. Vivian studied her daughter's face. This wouldn't happen to be at that mechanic shop, would it? Charlotte met her mother's gaze steadily. Yes, it is. Mr. Reed has been handling everything. I see, Vivian repeated, her tone cooling. Well, don't be too long. We have the budget meeting at 2. Charlotte nodded and left quickly, before her mother could ask more questions. In the elevator, she checked her appearance in the mirrored wall. Professional in her tailored suit, hair neatly styled. She suddenly wished she'd worn something less formal for her visit to Marcus's shop. When she arrived at Reed's Auto, the garage was busy as usual. Charlotte entered the reception area, immediately spotting Marcus talking with a customer. He looked up as the bell above the door chimed and their eyes met across the room. His serious expression softened visibly. He finished with the customer, then approached Charlotte. Hey, he said simply. Hey yourself, she replied, suddenly feeling shy again. You look... Marcus gestured to her business attire. Different. Nice, he added quickly. Big meeting this morning? Charlotte explained. The Henderson account I told you about yesterday. How'd it go? Marcus asked, leading her toward his office. We got the contract, Charlotte said, unable to hide her pride. Bigger than we expected. Congratulations, Marcus said with genuine warmth. That's great. In his office, Marcus retrieved an envelope from his desk. Your insurance check, full value of the car, plus a little extra for personal items that were damaged. Thank you for handling all of this, Charlotte said, taking the envelope. You've made everything so much easier. Just doing my job, Marcus replied, but his smile suggested otherwise. An awkward silence fell between them. Charlotte didn't want to leave yet, but she had no reason to stay. Would you like to have dinner sometime? She blurted out. With me, I mean. Not at Denise's or a diner. A real dinner. Marcus looked surprised, then thoughtful. You sure that's what you want? Dinner with a mechanic? No, Charlotte said firmly. Dinner with Marcus Reed, the man who saved my life, restored a '67 Mustang by hand, and makes the best coffee in Atlanta. Marcus laughed, a rich, deep sound that Charlotte immediately wanted to hear again. When you put it that way, how can I say no? He replied. They settled on Friday evening at a restaurant Charlotte knew and liked. As they worked out the details, Denise appeared in the doorway. Well, look who's back, she exclaimed, giving Charlotte a warm hug. How are you feeling, honey? Much better, Charlotte replied, returning the embrace. Just picked up my insurance settlement. Denise looked from Charlotte to Marcus and back again, her eyes twinkling. Is that all you came for? Charlotte felt herself blush. I also wanted to thank Marcus again for all his help. Mm-hmm, Denise hummed knowingly. Marcus, don't you think Charlotte should stay for lunch? I brought enough for everyone. Before either could respond, the shop phone rang. Marcus answered it, his expression quickly becoming serious. Slow down, Rick. What happened? He listened for a moment. I'll be right there. Don't touch anything else. He hung up and turned to them. Problem with the hydraulic lift in Bay 3. Could be dangerous. I need to check it right away. Of course, Charlotte said. I should get back to work anyway. Rain check on lunch? Denise suggested. Maybe dinner instead? I make a mean pot roast. I'd love that, Charlotte replied sincerely. Marcus walked her to her car. Sorry about this. Garage comes first when safety's involved. I understand completely, Charlotte assured him. Friday is still on, right? Marcus nodded, looking forward to it. As Charlotte drove back to her office, she couldn't help smiling. Despite the brevity of their meeting, seeing Marcus had brightened her day considerably. She was still smiling when she entered the building, until she saw her mother waiting in the lobby with Tom. Charlotte, there you are, Vivian said with forced brightness. Tom was just telling me about your wonderful presentation this morning. Charlotte's eyes narrowed slightly at Tom's smug expression. Yes, the clients were very pleased. Tom also mentioned you might be struggling a bit since the accident, Vivian continued. Perhaps suffering from some misplaced gratitude toward this mechanic who helped you? Charlotte felt her blood run cold. What exactly did Tom tell you? Just that you seemed confused, Tom interjected smoothly. It's understandable. Trauma can affect judgment. My judgment is perfectly fine, Charlotte replied, her voice steady despite her anger. And my personal life is exactly that, personal. Darling, we're just concerned, Vivian said, placing a hand on Charlotte's arm. This man is from a completely different world. Whatever you think you feel for him is simply gratitude, nothing more. You don't know anything about him, Charlotte said, pulling away from her mother's touch. Or about how I feel? I know that you're an Ellington, Vivian replied, her voice hardening. And Ellingtons have certain standards to uphold. Dad wouldn't have cared about any of this, Charlotte said quietly. Vivian's face tightened. Your father isn't here, and while I'm alive, I won't stand by and watch you throw away everything we've built for some infatuation with a man who works with his hands for a living. The elevator dinged, and several employees emerged, forcing Vivian to paste on a professional smile. We'll discuss this at home, she said under her breath. As her mother walked away, Charlotte turned to Tom. You had no right. Tom shrugged, not even pretending to look guilty. I'm looking out for you, Charlotte, and for the company. What do you think clients would say if they knew the Ellington heiress was slumming it with a black mechanic? The casual cruelty and racism of his words hit Charlotte like a physical blow. You're fired, Tom. He laughed. You can't fire me. I'm the lead counsel. Watch me, Charlotte replied, her voice ice cold. Clear out your office by the end of the day. Security will escort you out if necessary. Tom's smug expression faltered. You're not serious. Dead serious, Charlotte confirmed. What you just said violates at least 3 company policies on discrimination and hostile work environment, not to mention basic human decency. Your mother won't allow this, Tom warned. Try her, Charlotte challenged, because if she chooses you over me, I'll walk, and take half the clients with me. She left Tom standing in the lobby, mouth slightly open in shock. In her office, Charlotte closed the door and leaned against it, trembling with anger and adrenaline. She had just threatened to leave her father's company, the legacy he had built, the future he had planned for her. And yet, she felt more like her father's daughter in this moment than she had since his death. He had always taught her to stand up for what was right, to judge people by their character, not their job title or skin color. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Marcus. Still on for Friday? Charlotte smiled through sudden tears. Absolutely, she typed back. Can't wait. Whatever storm was coming with her mother and Tom, Charlotte would face it, because for the first time in years, she was choosing her own path, and it was leading her toward Marcus Reed. Friday evening arrived with agonizing slowness. The past few days had been a battlefield at Ellington Partners. True to her word, Charlotte had fired Tom, sending shockwaves through the office. Vivian had been furious but, surprisingly, hadn't overruled the decision after Charlotte presented the recording she'd secretly made of Tom's racist remarks. He's a liability, Charlotte had explained calmly. Dad would never have tolerated that kind of talk about anyone. Vivian had conceded the point, but remained cold and disapproving about Charlotte's growing relationship with Marcus. This dinner is a mistake, she'd warned that morning. You're giving him the wrong impression. Charlotte had simply smiled. The impression that I enjoy his company? That's exactly the right impression. Now, standing in her bedroom choosing earrings, Charlotte felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She'd selected a simple blue dress that complemented her eyes and fair skin. Not too formal, but nicer than anything Marcus had seen her in so far. She'd chosen a restaurant that struck the right balance, upscale enough to be special, but not so pretentious that Marcus would feel uncomfortable. She wanted tonight to be perfect. Her doorbell rang precisely at 7. Charlotte took a deep breath, smoothed her dress, and went to answer it. Marcus stood in the hallway, looking more handsome than she'd ever seen him. He wore charcoal gray slacks and a deep burgundy button-down shirt that contrasted beautifully with his skin. He'd even added a sport coat. In his hand, he held a small bouquet of wildflowers. "Hi," Charlotte said, suddenly feeling shy. "Hi yourself," Marcus replied with a small smile. "These are for you. Nothing fancy. Just picked them up at the farmer's market." "They're beautiful," Charlotte said, taking the flowers. Their simplicity and bright colors were more touching than any expensive arrangement. "Come in while I put them in water." Marcus entered her apartment, his eyes taking in the sleek, modern furnishings and floor-to-ceiling windows with their panoramic city view. "Nice place," he commented. "Thanks," Charlotte replied from the kitchen, where she was arranging the flowers in a vase. "It's a bit impersonal, though. I've been thinking about redecorating." "What would you change?" Marcus asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. Charlotte considered the question as she placed the flowers on her dining table. "More color, for one thing. Warmer tones. Maybe some art that actually means something to me, not just what matched the furniture." "Like what your aunt has," Marcus observed. "Her place feels lived in." "Exactly," Charlotte nodded. "Denise's home has soul." The comment seemed to please Marcus. "Ready to go?" The restaurant, Hillside, occupied the renovated ground floor of a historic building. Its brick walls and wooden beams were original, but the lighting and furnishings were modern and elegant. A jazz trio played softly in one corner. The maitre d' greeted Charlotte by name and showed them to a corner table with a good view of both the restaurant and the street beyond the windows. After they were seated, Marcus glanced around appreciatively. "Nice choice," he said. "Not what I expected." "What did you expect?" Charlotte asked curiously. "Something more, I don't know, stuffy? The kind of place where they have 5 forks and look down on you if you use the wrong one." Charlotte laughed. "I hate those places. Dad used to call them temples of culinary snobbery. This place is about good food, not showing off." "Your dad sounds like he was a great man," Marcus said. "He was," Charlotte replied softly. "You would have liked him, and he would have liked you." Their waiter approached, a friendly young man who described the specials with enthusiasm but no pretension. Marcus seemed to relax more as he realized the staff treated them both with equal warmth and respect. After ordering, they fell into easy conversation. Charlotte told Marcus about the drama at work, including Tom's firing. "You really did that?" Marcus asked, surprised. "Fired him for what he said about me?" "About us," Charlotte corrected. "And yes, the company has policies against discrimination. But honestly, I would have fired him anyway. He crossed a line." Marcus studied her face. "That took courage." Charlotte shrugged. "It felt right. For the first time in a long time, I'm making decisions Dad would be proud of." Their food arrived. Perfectly cooked steaks with roasted vegetables and garlic mashed potatoes. As they ate, Charlotte noticed Marcus occasionally glancing toward the entrance. "Is something wrong?" she asked. Marcus hesitated. "Just wondering if someone's going to recognize you, if this will cause problems." Charlotte understood immediately. "You mean, am I worried about being seen with you?" He nodded, his expression guarded. Marcus, I fired my company's lead counsel for making racist comments about you, Charlotte said firmly. Does that sound like someone who's worried about appearances? A slow smile spread across Marcus's face. No, it doesn't. Good, because the only thing I'm worried about tonight is whether you'll want to see me again after this. Charlotte felt her cheeks warm at the admission. I think that's a safe bet, Marcus replied softly. Their dessert, a shared chocolate torte, arrived with 2 forks. As they both reached for it, their hands brushed, sending a small jolt of electricity up Charlotte's arm. Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything else in the restaurant seemed to fade away. The spell was broken by a familiar voice. Charlotte, is that you? Charlotte looked up to find Liam Porter, her ex-boyfriend, standing beside their table. Tall, blonde, and expensively dressed, he looked exactly as she remembered, handsome in a bland, predictable way. Liam, she said, surprised. I didn't know you were back in town. Just got in yesterday, he replied, his eyes shifting curiously to Marcus. Aren't you going to introduce me to your friend? The slight pause before friend wasn't lost on either Charlotte or Marcus. Of course, Charlotte said smoothly. Marcus Reed, this is Liam Porter, an old acquaintance. Liam, this is Marcus. Marcus extended his hand politely. Nice to meet you. Liam hesitated almost imperceptibly before shaking it. Likewise. How do you two know each other? Marcus saved my life after my car accident, Charlotte explained. And now we're getting to know each other better. The implication was clear. Liam's eyebrows rose slightly. I see, he said, his tone cooling. Well, I won't interrupt your dinner. Perhaps we can catch up another time, Charlotte. I'll be in town for a few weeks. Perhaps, Charlotte replied noncommittally. After Liam walked away, Marcus looked at Charlotte questioningly. Old acquaintance? Charlotte sighed. Ex-boyfriend, from 3 years ago. It ended badly. Want to talk about it? Marcus asked. Charlotte hesitated. Not really. Not tonight. Tonight is about us, not old history. Marcus nodded, respecting her decision. But as they finished their dessert, Charlotte noticed Liam watching them from the bar, his expression unreadable. After dinner, they decided to take a walk through the nearby park. The spring night was warm, with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of flowering trees. Street lamps cast a golden glow over the path, and the distant sounds of the city created a peaceful backdrop. I had a great time tonight, Marcus said as they strolled side by side. Me too, Charlotte replied, though I could have done without the Liam surprise. Marcus chuckled. Does he always look at you like you're the last piece of cake at a birthday party? Charlotte laughed. Unfortunately, yes, Liam has always been possessive, even after we broke up. Why did you break up? Marcus asked. If you don't mind me asking. Charlotte was quiet for a moment. He cheated, she finally said. With my assistant at the time. But looking back, that was just the final straw. We were wrong for each other from the beginning. How so? Liam cared about appearances, status, money, the perfect power couple, Charlotte explained. My mother adored him, which should have been my first warning sign. They found a bench overlooking a small pond and sat down. The moonlight reflected off the water, creating a silver path across its surface. Can I ask you something personal? Charlotte said after a moment. Sure, Marcus replied. That day at the gas station, how did it make you feel, what I said? Marcus was quiet for so long that Charlotte worried she'd overstepped. Finally, he spoke. Honestly, it hurt, but not because it was new, he said slowly. I've heard worse since I was a kid. What hurt was that you looked normal. Nice even. Not the kind of person I expected that from. Charlotte felt tears prick her eyes. I'm so sorry. I know you are. Marcus said gently. And I've forgiven you, but you asked, and I'm being honest. I want you to be honest, Charlotte said. Always. Marcus turned to face her, his expression serious. Then here's more honesty. When I first saw you at my shop after the accident, I thought you came because you felt guilty or obligated. I was ready to dismiss you. What changed your mind? Charlotte asked softly. You came back, Marcus said simply. You kept coming back. Not because you had to, but because you wanted to. That takes a different kind of courage. Charlotte felt her heart swell at his words. Without thinking, she reached out and took his hand. His palm was warm against hers, his fingers strong, yet gentle as they curled around her own. I'm glad I found that courage, she whispered. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, hands still intertwined. Charlotte felt a peace she hadn't experienced in years, as if something long broken inside her was finally beginning to heal. When they eventually walked back to his car, their hands remained connected. At her building, Marcus insisted on walking her to her door. Thank you for tonight, Charlotte said as they stood in the hallway outside her apartment. For dinner, the walk, everything? Thank you for inviting me, Marcus replied. They stood facing each other, the air between them charged with unspoken feelings. Charlotte found herself studying his face, the strength in his jawline, the intelligence in his eyes, the fullness of his lips. She wanted him to kiss her, she realized. Wanted it more than she'd wanted anything in a very long time. As if reading her thoughts, Marcus stepped closer. His hand gently cupped her cheek, his thumb tracing the line of her cheekbone. Charlotte leaned into his touch, her eyes never leaving his. I want to kiss you, Marcus said, his voice low. Is that okay? Yes, Charlotte breathed. His lips met hers softly at first, a gentle exploration. Then, as she responded, the kiss deepened. Charlotte's arms slid around his neck as his encircled her waist, pulling her closer. The world narrowed to just this moment, just this connection between them, tender yet passionate, new yet somehow familiar. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. I've been wanting to do that since Sunday, he admitted. Charlotte smiled. Me too. A noise from the elevator broke the moment, a neighbor returning home late. Marcus stepped back slightly, though his hand remained at her waist. I should go, he said reluctantly. Charlotte nodded, though everything in her wanted to ask him to stay. Call me tomorrow? Count on it, Marcus promised. One more quick kiss, and then he was gone. Charlotte entered her apartment, closing the door behind her and leaning against it, her fingers touching her lips where she could still feel his kiss. For the first time in years, Charlotte Ellington felt truly alive. The following week passed in a whirlwind of work, stolen evenings with Marcus, and escalating tension with Vivian. Charlotte and Marcus fell into an easy rhythm together. Dinner at his place or hers, late-night phone conversations, and increasingly passionate moments that left them both wanting more, but content to take things slowly. Charlotte introduced Marcus to her favorite books. He taught her the basics of auto repair. They discovered a shared love of old movies and blues music. Each day brought new revelations, new connections. But as their relationship blossomed, the outside world began to intrude. Vivian's disapproval grew more vocal. Colleagues whispered when Charlotte mentioned Marcus, and Liam, still in town, seemed to appear everywhere she went, always with a cutting remark or pointed question about her unusual friendship. On Friday afternoon, a week after their first official date, Charlotte received a troubling call from Denise. Charlotte, it's Denise Reed. Have you seen Marcus today? No, Charlotte replied, immediately concerned by the worry in Denise's voice. I was going to see him tonight. Is everything okay? Denise sighed. I'm not sure. He had a visitor at the shop this morning, some slick-looking fellow in an expensive suit. After he left, Marcus closed up early and disappeared. Won't answer my calls. A cold feeling settled in Charlotte's stomach. What did this man look like? Tall, blonde hair. Looked like he stepped out of a magazine ad. Liam? Charlotte whispered. It has to be. Who's Liam? Denise asked. My ex-boyfriend. We ran into him last week at dinner, Charlotte explained quickly. I need to find Marcus. After getting off the phone, Charlotte tried calling Marcus herself, but it went straight to voicemail. Increasingly worried, she grabbed her purse and headed for the elevator. Whatever Liam had said, she needed to set things right. As she reached the lobby, the elevator doors opened to reveal her mother. Charlotte, I was just coming to see you, Vivian said. We need to talk about the Westridge account. Not now, Mother, Charlotte replied, trying to move past her. Vivian blocked her path. This is important, Charlotte. The future of the company is secure, Charlotte interrupted. But something more important has come up. I need to go. This is about that mechanic, isn't it? Vivian's voice hardened. Charlotte, you're making a spectacle of yourself. People are talking. Let them talk, Charlotte replied. I don't care anymore. Well, I do, Vivian snapped. Your father built this company on reputation and connections. I won't let you throw it all away for some infatuation. Charlotte took a deep breath. Dad built this company on integrity and genuine relationships, and if you'd known him as well as you claim to, you'd understand that he would support me in this. That's ridiculous, Vivian scoffed. William would never have approved of you dating someone like Marcus Reed. You're wrong, Charlotte said firmly. Dad judged people by their character, not their job title or skin color. That's why people respected him, and that's why I'm going to run this company my way from now on. Without waiting for a response, Charlotte pushed past her mother and out of the building. She had more important matters to attend to than Vivian's outdated prejudices. Charlotte tried Marcus's apartment first but found no answer. Next, she drove to Reed's auto, but the garage was indeed closed, the lights off. Finally, acting on a hunch, she headed to the lake park they had visited together. The park was quieter on this weekday evening than it had been on Sunday. As Charlotte walked along the path, she spotted a familiar figure sitting on their bench, staring out at the water. Marcus didn't look up as she approached, though she knew he heard her footsteps. His expression was closed off, reminiscent of their first meeting after her accident. Denise called me, Charlotte said softly, sitting beside him. She was worried. Marcus nodded, but said nothing. Liam came to see you, Charlotte continued. It wasn't a question. Yes, Marcus replied, his voice flat. Interesting guy, your ex. What did he say to you? Charlotte asked, dreading the answer. Marcus finally turned to look at her. His eyes held pain and, worse, doubt. He showed me pictures, Marcus said, of you two together, recently. Said you were getting back together but keeping me around as a charity project because you felt guilty? Charlotte gasped. That's ridiculous. I haven't been with Liam since we broke up 3 years ago. The pictures looked recent, Marcus said. You were having lunch together. Charlotte shook her head, confused. The only time I've seen Liam since that night at the restaurant was when he showed up at my office 2 days ago. He wanted to talk about old times, so I agreed to a quick lunch in the public cafeteria to tell him I wasn't interested. It lasted 20 minutes, and I made it clear I was seeing someone. He said it was more than that, Marcus said, uncertainty in his voice. Said you two had history I couldn't compete with, that eventually you'd return to your kind. Anger surged through Charlotte. And you believed him? I didn't want to, Marcus admitted. But then I started thinking, maybe he's right. Maybe this is just a phase for you. Rebelling against your mother. Trying something new. What happens when the novelty wears off? Charlotte felt tears spring to her eyes. Is that really what you think of me? After everything we've shared? I don't know what to think, Marcus said, running a hand over his face. Charlotte, we come from completely different worlds. Your mother hates me. Your colleagues whisper about us, and everywhere we go, people stare. Is that the life you want? I don't care about any of that, Charlotte insisted. I care about you, about us. Today, Marcus said. But what about next month, next year? When your mother cuts you off or your clients start leaving because they don't want to work with a company whose CEO dates a black mechanic? The pain in his voice broke Charlotte's heart. She realized that Liam had expertly targeted Marcus's deepest insecurities, the same ones she had inadvertently confirmed that day at the gas station. Marcus, look at me, Charlotte said firmly. When he finally met her eyes, she continued. I fired a man for making racist comments about you. I stood up to my mother. I'm changing the entire culture of my company. Does that sound like someone who's just going through a phase? Marcus was quiet, considering her words. I've spent 2 years trying to be what everyone else wanted, Charlotte continued, her voice softening. My mother's perfect daughter, my father's perfect successor, society's perfect heiress. I was miserable, and I didn't even realize it until the accident, until you. What are you saying? Marcus asked. I'm saying that being with you makes me happier than I've been since my father died, Charlotte admitted. You challenge me, you see me, the real me, not the persona I created. And I think I do the same for you. She took his hand, relieved when he didn't pull away. Liam is a manipulator. He always has been. He can't stand the thought that I've moved on, especially with someone he considers beneath him. That's why he did this. Marcus seemed to be wrestling with himself. Even if that's true, he didn't create the problems between us. The world did. People will always judge us, Charlotte. Let them, Charlotte said fiercely. I'd rather be judged for being happy with you than praised for being miserable without you. Something shifted in Marcus's eyes, a softening, a return of the warmth that had been missing. You really mean that, don't you? Every word, Charlotte said. I'm falling in love with you, Marcus Reed, and that terrifies me, but not because of what anyone else thinks, because I've never felt this way before. Marcus's expression transformed at her confession. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs gently wiping away tears she hadn't realized were falling. I'm falling in love with you too, he said softly, and it terrifies me for all the same reasons. Their kiss was different this time, deeper, more honest, full of newly acknowledged feelings. When they finally pulled apart, Charlotte rested her head against his shoulder, and his arm wrapped securely around her. I'm sorry I doubted you, Marcus said. It's just hard to believe sometimes that someone like you would choose someone like me. What do you mean, someone like me? Charlotte asked, looking up at him. Beautiful, successful, could have anyone you wanted, Marcus listed. Charlotte smiled. I do have who I want. She turned serious again. And what do you mean, someone like you? Honorable, compassionate, hardworking, exactly the kind of man I've been looking for all along. They sat together as the sun began to set, casting golden light across the lake. Charlotte felt a sense of rightness, of coming home, that she'd never experienced before. What happens now? Marcus asked after a while. Now, Charlotte said thoughtfully, we face the world together, starting with dinner at my mother's house this Sunday. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Are you sure about that? Absolutely, Charlotte nodded. It's time Vivian Ellington met the real Marcus Reed, not the stereotype she's created in her mind. And if she still disapproves? Marcus asked. Then that's her loss, Charlotte said firmly. I've spent too long trying to please her. It's time she learned to accept me, all of me, including the people I love. Marcus smiled at her use of the word love, pulling her closer. You're pretty amazing, you know that? I'm learning to believe it, Charlotte replied honestly. With your help. Sunday dinner at the Ellington mansion was tense but surprisingly civil. Vivian, ever the proper hostess, maintained a veneer of politeness, though her surprise at Marcus's eloquence and knowledge was poorly concealed. Marcus, for his part, was respectful but never subservient, calmly correcting Vivian's misconceptions about his business and education. By dessert, a fragile truce had been established. Not acceptance, not yet, but a beginning. Your mother actually said good night to me, Marcus remarked as they drove away later. I count that as progress. Charlotte laughed. From Vivian Ellington, that's practically a declaration of love. Speaking of which, Marcus said, taking her hand across the console. I've been thinking about what you said by the lake, about falling in love. Charlotte's heart quickened. Yes? I don't think I'm falling anymore, Marcus said softly. I think I've already fallen. I love you, Charlotte. Joy bloomed in Charlotte's chest. I love you too, Marcus. At his apartment that night, their love found physical expression for the first time. Tender, passionate, and healing for them both. Afterward, lying in Marcus's arms, Charlotte felt a sense of peace she hadn't known was possible. What are you thinking? Marcus asked, stroking her hair. I'm thinking about that day at the gas station, Charlotte admitted. How one terrible moment led to all of this. How sometimes the worst mistakes can lead to the best outcomes. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. My dad used to say that true character isn't about never making mistakes. It's about what you do after you make them. Wise man, Charlotte said. I wish I could have met him. He would have liked you, Marcus replied, echoing her words from their first date. Just like I do. 6 months later, Reed's Auto expanded to include a youth training program funded in part by a grant from the Ellington Foundation, Charlotte's new community initiative. Denise proudly cut the ribbon at the opening ceremony, with Charlotte and Marcus by her side. Vivian attended too, her initial disapproval gradually giving way to reluctant respect as she witnessed both her daughter's happiness and Marcus's undeniable business acumen. She would never be completely comfortable with their relationship, but she was learning to accept it. As for Liam, he had left town shortly after his failed attempt to come between them, but not before Charlotte confronted him about his lies. I've found something real, she had told him. Something you wouldn't understand. Now, standing in the autumn sunshine watching Marcus demonstrate basic engine maintenance to a group of eager teenagers, Charlotte felt her heart swell with pride and love. When he looked up and caught her eye, his smile was all the confirmation she needed. They had both made mistakes. They had both carried prejudices and fears they needed to overcome. But together, they had built something beautiful from the wreckage. A love based not on appearance or status, but on character and understanding. Ready to go? Marcus asked, approaching her as the students dispersed. Charlotte nodded, slipping her hand into his. Always. As they walked to his car, not the work truck or even the Mustang, but a practical sedan they had chosen together, Charlotte reflected on how far they had come. From a careless insult at a gas station to a life built on mutual respect and genuine love. It hadn't been easy. The stares hadn't stopped completely. Some clients had indeed left Ellington Partners, though many more had stayed, impressed by Charlotte's integrity and vision. And Marcus still occasionally battled doubts about whether he truly belonged in her world. But every day, they chose each other. Every day, they proved that love could transcend boundaries of race, class, and expectation. And every day, Charlotte silently thanked the twist of fate that had brought Marcus Reed into her life. The man who had saved not just her body from a wrecked car, but her soul from a life half-lived. As Marcus drove them home, to the house they now shared, with its warm colors and personal touches, Charlotte leaned her head on his shoulder, perfectly content. They weren't perfect, their journey wasn't over, and challenges still lay ahead. But they were facing them together, with open hearts and the courage to love without reservation. And that, Charlotte knew, was the most beautiful restoration of all.